Given that I just had a multiple sclerosis relapse, I made a video about it. It occurred to me that I never really talked to you guys about leading up to my diagnosis, my pre-diagnosis story. My diagnosis story. See, the thing is, MS has so many... MS is kind of confusing. It has so many symptoms, and I know people are curious. I want to tell my story because my diagnosis is actually a kind of typical. Doctors have told me that this was an extremely typical relapse-remitting course, and relapse-remitting MS is by far the most common type of MS. If you're diagnosed with MS, I think there's an 85% chance it's relapse-remitting. So, you know, this is actually kind of typical according to my doctors. Alright, if the camera's shaking, it's because of my cat. You don't like it when I don't pay attention to you and I'm paying attention to something else. It's adorable. I would say that my multiple sclerosis story probably started in middle school. Now, it's rare that kids are diagnosed with MS, and I wasn't diagnosed, but I did have pretty severe emotional problems when I was in middle school. Like, when I was about like 6th grade, 5th grade, 7th grade, I was self-injuring, which is it's crazy for me to think about now because I'm not about that life anymore. But yeah, I really just could not handle stress. I really mismanaged it in my brain, and I was self-injuring, cutting myself basically pretty much daily. And it's actually really embarrassing because even though I haven't done that in a really long time, I'm fair, if you can't tell, so these scars have stuck with me and they're really embarrassing and they're very difficult to explain away. So yeah, that happened. And the reason why I think that may have been the beginning of my MS whatever is because nowadays it's a theory that stress can cause MS flare-ups or exacerbations, that stress is somehow related to MS. This is not proven, it's like a theory, but I know in my personal experience, every major flare or exacerbation or whatever that I've had, every time my MS has kicked up, has been either during a very stressful time of my life or shortly after a very stressful time of my life. Also around, I would say, high school, I started having problems with kind of general brain fog. My brain just kind of turning off or just disconnect. Like I felt, I almost felt like I was swimming, like all the time. Like I felt really disconnected to my everything around me, and I don't know, but see, you have to understand, around this time I was also like self-injuring and like, you know, so you don't know, or I didn't know what's regular depression or maybe a side effect of all the depression medications I was on that made me gain a lot of weight. So anyway, I was self-injuring, I was feeling disconnected from my environment, I was very, very tired I don't know, I thought I was just tired. It's like a tired that's hard to explain. These things actually stayed and got worse once I went to college. I had a series of like meltdowns, I guess, in college. I was inpatient for a psychiatric whatever a couple times. But what really made it bad was I started having problems with tingling, like parts of my hands or my feet falling asleep. Like you know when you sit weird and your foot falls asleep? That would happen, except it would stay asleep for days, weeks, months. I was also having a really hard time walking to class. Like my left leg, I remember it would be hard to lift. And another thing you have to understand is around this time I was very heavy. I mean, not that I'm skinny now, but I used to be well over 300 pounds. So with the tingling and the hard to walk and the blah blah blah, see, I thought I was just really unhealthy. So I was always on like a diet or something. I was trying to lose weight. I was swimming almost every day. I was trying to be healthier. Like I thought these issues were because I was really big. Honest to God, I was afraid to go to the doctor about this tingling and the whatever because I thought I had diabetes. The tingling was probably my first like physical, not mental, not going crazy type of symptom. Though my way of handling all of this was in college, I really threw myself into extracurriculars. I just kind of buried myself into what I loved. That was a coping mechanism that I learned that helped get me off self-injuring and all that. But college, I didn't stay there long, but boy, was that hard. There were a couple times I fell asleep in class. I remember walking to class and then halfway there, forgetting what I was doing. After college, I really, back to the distracting myself thing, I really threw myself into work. And actually through most of my 20s, I really just worked a lot. But in 2005, I should say at 2005 I was 20. My feet were numb for about 3 months. That was the longest it had been. At this time still I was very heavy, like probably 320, 30 pounds, and I was working on my feet. So at first I was like, well, it's probably because I'm fat and I'm like doing all this. But eventually I had to go to the doctor. So I went to the doctor and the doctor told me to lose weight. I did not have diabetes, I found out, but he did say that he told me to lose weight basically, which, I was very happy, so I can't fault him too bad for that. And I do get along a lot easier now that I'm not heavy like that anymore. It has made a huge difference in my mobility, but back then, I remember thinking, well, I've been working like this for like a year now, and I don't know why my feet are numb all of a sudden. Like, I wasn't sure if I believed it, but that's what happened. I continued to bury myself in work, and then 2006, I'm 21 at this point, I moved to Philadelphia. Again, I'm totally buried in work. I had a job at a Macy's that had just opened up in Center City, Philadelphia. This was that August, and I remember I started having problems seeing out of my left eye, like it was really blurry, and I remember this because I was wearing contacts at the time, so it's like I would close an eye to put the contact in and it'd be clear, but then with this eye, it was just so blurry, so fuzzy, so I could barely see. Then it started to hurt. And then eventually, this eye, it looked like a black, no, not black, like a gray curtain. I couldn't see out of this eye, basically. My friend Nikki, suddenly awake, had come to visit on my one day off, and I was like, hey, we have to go to the emergency room because I can't see out of this eye. So I go to the emergency room, and after not long, they found out there's nothing wrong with my eye. My eye was fine. I was afraid I had an eye infection or something. Nah, nothing was wrong with it. There was something wrong with my optic nerve. At that point, neurologists got involved, and I had, I found out I had something called optic neuritis, which is a lesion on your optic nerve. I couldn't see. And they started giving me the steroids, like I just finished taking, the heavy dose of steroids. I was in the hospital for days while I got these steroids. And I also got an MRI while I was in there. And they gave me the MRI so they can see what was going on with my brain and my whatever. And at this point, they had floated the idea that I might have MS. Apparently, if you get optic neuritis, there's a 50% chance you have MS. Funny enough, my dad had optic neuritis, but he never developed MS. Huh, medical mystery. Anyway, so... Hey, Bussy. He doesn't like this story, it's sad. I got an MRI, and I remember being in the hospital for days, not knowing if I had MS, not knowing whatever. And how did I get diagnosed? One time, one of my doctors, and I think she's an intern, she's doing her rounds. So she comes to talk to me, and we were talking about my vision. My vision got better rapidly as I took the steroids. Anyway, we were talking about my eye, and I said to her, she was starting to leave with her little team of doctors following, and I said, well, so what happened with my MRI? Do I have MS? And she said, yes, your MRI is very consistent with MS. She made a follow-up appointment for me for, I don't know, 3 months later. And then she walked away. And that was it. That's how I found out I had MS. And it was actually a really scary moment because I was alone. You know, I was in Philadelphia. My family was here in New Jersey. I mean, my family's awesome. They did come visit me, but you know, I was alone. And I feel like that's been kind of like my theme with MS since, I don't know, it's kind of like a scary and lonely thing that you go through alone, and it's, you know, I don't know. So that's how I found out I had it. A few months later, I see the neurologist, and yeah, since then I have a relapse like that probably every 2 or 3 years. I can't say I've 100% recovered from all of my relapses because I've had relapses. I have trouble walking, and I never really, I need to use a cane now. I have been lucky, but I do have pretty textbook relapsed remitting MS. So that's my story. It's kind of pretty typical. Alright, I'm hungry. I want a peanut butter and jelly. So I hope you enjoyed this story. If you have questions, leave them below, because I mean, if there's a whole lot of questions, I'll do another one. I'll do a follow-up. Alright, that was a ramble. Have a good day. Thank you for watching.